Maya Castellanos had 4 minutes and 12 seconds to prove she was worth saving. 4 minutes inside a burning house to rescue a stranger. 12 seconds to decide if her own life mattered enough to fight for it afterward. She was 16 years old, 97 pounds, profoundly deaf since age 4, and the cigarette burns covering her arms weren't from the fire she was about to run into. What happened when she dragged a biker's wife from that burning basement would trigger the largest Hells Angels mobilization Oregon had seen in 8 years. 230 men on motorcycles. One systematic investigation. And a foster care system about to face the reckoning it had been avoiding for 19 months. Hit subscribe if you believe the scariest-looking people in a room can have the gentlest hearts. Comment where you're watching from, and tell me about someone who protected you when systems failed. Now let me tell you about the day Maya Castellanos became untouchable. The fire rescue. Saturday, November 17th, 10:47 a.m. The smoke was gray-black, pouring from the basement window of 3621 Oak Haven Drive, like something alive and angry. Maya saw it from half a block away, walking toward Salem Public Library with her notebook pressed against her chest, the way she always did when the world felt too loud. Except Maya's world was never loud. It had been silent for 12 years. She stopped on the sidewalk, watched the smoke thicken, felt the November drizzle on her face, and tasted something in the air that might have been fear, or might have been the last moment before everything changed. Most people would have kept walking, called 911 maybe, let professionals handle it. But Maya had learned something about being deaf that hearing people never understand. You notice things others miss. Movement, shadows, the way light changes when someone's trapped behind glass. She saw the hand first, palm pressed against the basement window, fingers spread wide, pounding, then the face. A woman, 50s maybe, mouth open in what Maya knew was screaming, even though she couldn't hear a sound. The woman's other hand clutched a walker, metal frame visible through the smoke. Maya's sneakers hit the pavement before her brain caught up with her body. The ones held together with super glue, re-glued 6 times because her foster mother said replacing them was wasteful when Maya still had feet that worked. She ran, 47 yards from sidewalk to basement window. She picked up a landscaping rock the size of a softball from the Morrisons' front garden bed, threw it through the window with everything a 97-pound body could generate. Glass shattered inward. Smoke billowed out like it had been waiting for permission. Maya didn't hesitate. Couldn't afford to. Hesitation is a luxury for people who believe rescue is coming. She went through the window head first. The heat hit her like a physical thing. The smoke was thicker inside, choking, chemical tasting. Maya couldn't hear the roar of the fire the way hearing people would describe it later. She felt it instead. Vibration through the concrete floor. Heat radiating from the ceiling where flames were eating through electrical wiring. The woman was 10 feet away. Collapsed beside the washing machine, Walker tipped sideways, one hand still reaching toward where the window had been. Her eyes found Maya's face. Terror turned to confusion, turned to desperate hope in the space of 3 heartbeats. Maya dropped to her knees beside the woman, made herself visible in the smoke, positioned her hands where they could be seen. Signed 3 words in American Sign Language, clear and deliberate. I get you. The woman's eyes widened. She signed back, shaky but recognizable. Can't walk, stroke. 6 months ago, Diana Morrison had a stroke that took her voice and half her mobility. Her husband Thomas had learned basic ASL to communicate during her recovery. Diana had learned that signing could be a lifeline when words failed. She never imagined it would save her life. Maya hooked both arms under Diana's shoulders. Diana weighed 160 pounds. Maya weighed 97. Physics said this shouldn't work. Adrenaline said physics could wait its turn. She dragged, inch by inch, foot by foot. The smoke thickened. Maya's lungs burned. Her hands, wrapped around Diana's torso, started to blister where they pressed against Diana's heated clothing. The floor was hot enough to hurt through Maya's jeans. 4 minutes and 12 seconds from window entry to window exit. Maya lifted Diana through the broken window first. Shoved with everything she had, ignoring the fresh cuts from broken glass still clinging to the frame. Diana tumbled onto the grass outside. Safe. Then Maya pulled herself through. She made it halfway out when the basement ceiling collapsed behind her. Flames shot through the stairwell. If she'd been 3 seconds slower, she would have died in that basement. Instead, she lay on the Morrisons' front lawn, coughing smoke from lungs that would never quite feel clean again, watching Diana Morrison cry silent tears of gratitude while sirens approached from 4 blocks away. Maya's hands were covered in blisters. Her right cheek had a first-degree burn from an ember that landed on her skin. Her hair smelled like melted plastic and chemical fire. But she was alive. And so was the stranger she'd just saved. What Maya didn't know yet was that the stranger's husband wore a Hell's Angels vest, or that in 4 hours and 17 minutes she would finally find the courage to ask for help, or that the burns on her hands would tell a story she'd been too terrified to speak out loud for 19 months. All Maya knew, lying on that wet grass, was that she'd survived another day. And for a girl who'd been counting down to her own murder since overhearing her foster mother plan it, surviving one more day felt like a miracle she didn't deserve. The waiting room, 2:34 p.m., same day, Riverside Urgent Care. Smelled like antiseptic and burnt coffee and the particular kind of anxiety that comes from waiting for bad news. Maya sat in a molded plastic chair near the corner, as far from the crowd as the room allowed, with both hands wrapped in white gauze that made them look like they belonged to someone else. The nurse had told her to wait. Her foster mother was on her way. Should be here any minute. That had been 4 hours ago. Maya watched the clock on the wall tick forward. Each minute that passed was another minute Diane Mercer wasn't here, which meant another minute Diane was getting angrier. Maya knew the pattern. The longer the wait, the worse the punishment. And hospital bills would make everything so much worse. She clutched her small spiral notebook against her chest with bandaged hands. The pages inside were filled with careful handwriting, dates and times and incidents she'd documented over 19 months because she'd learned that nobody believes deaf foster kids, but sometimes they believe evidence. 17 people in the waiting room. Maya had counted them twice. Families with sick children, elderly patients, one homeless man sleeping in a corner chair. None of them looked at her. To them, she was just another teenager with bandaged hands, probably injured doing something stupid. They didn't know those bandages covered 2 different kinds of burns. The fresh ones from rescuing Diana Morrison, and the old ones, circular and deliberate, from cigarettes extinguished on her skin as punishment for using sign language instead of speech. Her foster mother didn't like when Maya signed, said it made her stand out and seem more disabled than she really was. Said normal people used their mouths to talk. The burns were motivation to choose better. Maya's stomach cramped with hunger. She hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. 1 meal a day was the rule at the Mercer house, unless you earned more through good behavior. Maya had stopped earning extras 6 months ago when she'd tried to tell a caseworker about the locked basement. The room tilted slightly. Low blood sugar, probably. Or smoke inhalation. Or fear. Hard to tell the difference anymore. Rejection. The couple. A young couple sat 3 chairs away, maybe mid-30s, watching their toddler play with a tablet. The little boy dropped his juice box. It rolled toward Maya's feet. Maya tried to bend down to pick it up. Her burned hands made the movement clumsy. The notebook slipped from her grasp and fell to the floor, pages splaying open. One page landed face up, visible. November 3rd entry. Locked in basement 18 hours. No food. Dee said I embarrassed her at church by signing during sermon. The mother glanced down at the notebook. Her eyes skimmed the words. For half a second, Maya thought she saw recognition flash across the woman's face. Understanding, maybe. Concern. Then the woman looked away, picked up the juice box herself, pulled her child closer like Maya's trauma was contagious. The couple moved to seats on the opposite side of the room. Maya retrieved her notebook with shaking hands, closed it carefully. The page that had been visible now hidden again among all the others. Nobody would read. Rejection. 2. The veteran. An elderly man sat reading a newspaper, 70s maybe, wearing a veteran's cap, American flag pin on his jacket. Maya moved to the empty seat beside him, not to bother him, just because it was the only seat near an outlet and her phone was at 3% battery. She needed that phone. It was her voice, her emergency contact, her only way to communicate with hearing people when signing failed. She pulled out her phone charging cable with bandaged hands, fumbled trying to plug it in, dropped it twice. On the 3rd attempt, she wrote a note on a torn piece of paper from her notebook. "Excuse me, could you help me plug this in? My hands are burned. Thank you." She held the note where he could see it. The man read it, looked at her bandaged hands, looked at her face. His expression didn't change, just sort of hardened. He folded his newspaper, stood up, moved to a different row of seats without a word. Maya sat there holding the note. It felt heavier than paper should feel. Veterans were supposed to protect people. That's what she'd always been told. This one looked at a burned teenager asking for help and chose to walk away. Maybe he had reasons. Maybe she reminded him of something painful, or maybe looking away was just easier than getting involved. She plugged the phone in herself eventually. Took 3 tries, hands shaking, pain shooting through the blisters. Rejection. 3. The nurse. Maya approached the check-in desk for the 3rd time. The nurse behind the counter wore scrubs with cartoon characters and the expression that said she'd worked a double shift and didn't have patience for complications. Maya slid her notebook across the counter, opened to a fresh page where she'd written in careful block letters, "I need ASL interpreter, please. ADA requires for medical facilities. I am deaf, cannot hear instructions." The nurse read it, sighed like Maya had just asked her to build a rocket ship, looked at the packed waiting room, looked at the computer screen, looked back at Maya. Her lips moved. Maya read them. "We're too busy today. You'll just have to wait. Someone will help you when we have time." The nurse turned back to her computer. Conversation over. Maya wanted to write that the Americans with Disabilities Act didn't have a too busy exemption, that medical facilities were legally required to provide communication access, that she'd been waiting 4 hours and hadn't received any medical instructions beyond sit and wait for foster parent. But she'd learned that explaining civil rights to people who didn't want to follow them just made them angry. And angry people in positions of power made her life harder. So she went back to her seat and waited for someone who would never come help her. Rejection. The church volunteer. The hypocrite. The woman appeared in the waiting room at 3:17 p.m., carrying a basket of wellness pamphlets and wearing a volunteer badge from Church of the Redeemer. 55, maybe? Well-dressed, warm smile that reached everyone in the room like sunshine. She made her rounds, offered pamphlets about healthy living and prayer circles and community support, patted hands, and said encouraging words that Maya couldn't hear but could see, making people's faces soften with gratitude. Then she reached Maya, saw the bandaged hands. Her smile brightened. She sat down in the empty chair beside Maya, positioning herself like she was about to deliver good news. Her lips moved. "Oh, you poor thing. What happened to your hands?" Maya wrote quickly in her notebook, held it up. "House fire. I ran in to save someone. Her name is Diana Morrison. She's okay now." The woman read it. Her smile grew even wider. She reached out and patted Maya's head like she was 7 instead of 16. Her lips moved again. "Well, God works in mysterious ways, doesn't he? This is your chance to learn patience through suffering. He's teaching you something important." Maya felt something cold settle in her stomach. She wrote faster, pressing hard enough the pen nearly tore through the page. "I need help. My foster home is not safe. I'm being hurt there. Can you help me find someone to talk to?" The woman read it. The smile tightened at the edges. Her eyes didn't look quite so warm anymore. Her lips moved, carefully enunciated so Maya could read every word. "Foster care is a blessing, young lady. You should be grateful for the roof over your head. Many children have nothing. Pride comes before a fall. You need to learn to accept God's plan with a humble heart." She pressed a pamphlet into Maya's lap. "Faith and gratitude. Finding joy in trials." Then she stood up and moved to the next person, smile back at full brightness, radiating compassion for everyone except the girl who'd actually asked for it. Maya held the pamphlet in bandaged hands. Read the title through blurring vision. This woman represented faith, church, service, help for those in need. That's what her badge said. That's what her smile promised. But when faced with an actual human being in actual danger, she'd offered judgment and platitudes instead of action. Maya had been rejected before. By caseworkers who didn't have time, by police who couldn't communicate, by teachers who thought she was troubled. But something about this rejection felt different. This woman claimed to serve God, claimed to care about suffering, claimed to help the vulnerable. But she looked at Maya and saw an inconvenience. A girl who needed to be more grateful. A problem that could be solved with a pamphlet about accepting your circumstances instead of fighting to change them. Maya closed her eyes. The pamphlet slipped from her hands to the floor. She was so tired. Tired of being invisible. Tired of screaming silently into a void where nobody listened. Tired of documenting evidence nobody would read. Tired of surviving day by day with a foster mother who'd already decided Maya would be dead by January. 4 hours and 43 minutes since the fire. Diane Mercer still wasn't here to pick her up. And across the waiting room, holding his wife's hand, was a man in a black leather vest with a skull patch on the back. The woman Maya had saved, and the biker who was about to become her only chance at survival. The approach. 2:47 p.m. Thomas Morrison had been sitting in that waiting room for 3 hours and 19 minutes, holding Diana's hand like if he let go, she might disappear. She was alive. She was breathing. The doctor said she'd be fine, just needed observation for smoke inhalation. But Wrench, that's what the club called him, what everyone except Diana called him, couldn't stop replaying those 4 minutes when he'd driven home from the clubhouse meeting and seen his house on fire. Those 4 minutes when he thought his wife of 27 years was dead. The paramedics had explained it to him. Teenage girl, went through the basement window, dragged Diana out, got them both to safety seconds before the ceiling collapsed. They'd pointed her out. That thin kid sitting in the corner with bandaged hands waiting for someone to pick her up. She'd saved Diana's life, and then just sat there, silent and still like she was used to being forgotten. Wrench had meant to thank her, had meant to walk over there an hour ago, but something kept stopping him. The way she sat, shoulders hunched, making herself smaller. The way her eyes tracked every person who moved too close, always watching, always ready to bolt. The way she clutched that notebook to her chest, like it was the only thing tethering her to the world. He'd seen that body language before. In his daughter, before the car accident took her 19 years ago. Fear wearing a practiced neutral mask. Then he watched the church lady approach the girl. Watched the girl write something in her notebook. Watched the church lady's smile turn sharp and dismissive. Watched the girl's shoulders drop like she'd just taken a blow nobody else could see. Diana squeezed his hand. She couldn't speak. Stroke had taken her voice 6 months ago, but she could sign. Her hands moved slowly, deliberately. Girl. Sad. Help. Wrench looked across the room. The girl was standing now, moving toward them, every step careful, calculated, like she was walking toward something that might explode. She stopped 3 feet away. Her hands were shaking. The white bandages made them look like they belonged to a ghost. She opened her notebook, held it up for him to read. The handwriting was careful, precise. Every letter formed with the kind of attention that comes from knowing you only get one chance to be heard. You saved your wife. Can you save me? 8 words. Wrench felt something in his chest crack open. He stood slowly, didn't want to startle her, made sure she could see his face, see his hands, see everything he was about to do. He took off his Hell's Angels vest, his cut, the most sacred thing a biker owns, and stepped forward. The girl flinched. Barely. Just a tiny backward shift of weight. He stopped. Held the vest where she could see it. Then, moving like he was approaching something wounded, he draped it over her thin shoulders. The leather was huge on her. Swallowed her whole. She looked down at it like she'd never been given anything before. Wrench pointed to himself, then to Diana, then to the girl. Made a circle with both arms. All of us together. He spoke slowly, clearly, making sure she could read his lips. You're under my protection now. Nobody touches you. Understand? Diana wheeled her chair closer, signed 3 words in ASL. Protected. Safe. Now. The girl stared at them. Her hands came up slowly, still shaking, and signed back. Thank you. Then she opened her notebook to a fresh page and started writing. Fast. Pressing so hard the pen nearly tore through paper. When she finished, she held it up with hands that shook so badly Wrench had to steady the notebook to read it. What he read made his blood run cold. I live in foster home at 1847 Pinecrest Avenue, apartment 2C. Foster mother is Diane Mercer. She's a nurse. Everyone thinks she's a good person. But it's bad there. She hurts us. I can't go back. She'll be so angry about the hospital bills. Please don't make me go back. Wrench pulled out his phone, opened the Notes app, typed, "Who will punish you? What kind of punishment?" Maya's hands moved to her sleeve. She pushed it up slowly, revealing her left forearm. Circular burns. 11 of them. Different stages of healing. Some fresh, some weeks old, some scarred over, each one the exact diameter of a cigarette. She wrote, "My foster mother Diane burns me with cigarettes when I disobey, when I use sign language instead of speech, when I tell people things she doesn't want them to know. She locks me in basement for days, feeds me once a day if I'm good. These burns aren't from the fire today. These are from her." She pulled up her other sleeve. More burns. "There are 6 kids in the house. She hurts all of us. Lucas has cerebral palsy. Zara has diabetes. Isaiah has asthma. Emma has a heart condition. Noah has epilepsy. We're all disabled. She says disabled kids get more money from the state. $1,347 per child every month." Diana made a sound. Not words, her voice was gone, but a gasp. Her hands moved frantically. "Police! Now! Call!" Wrench typed, "We'll call police. You'll be safe. I promise." The murder plot. Maya shook her head. Violent, desperate. She wrote so fast the letters started to slant. "Police won't help. I tried. 5 months ago, they called Diane. She showed them papers saying I have behavioral problems, that I make up stories for attention. They believed her, took me back. She locked me in basement for 3 days as punishment." She turned the page, kept writing. "But it's worse than abuse. She's planning to cause my death. I heard her talking to her husband Robert 3 weeks ago. I was locked in basement. Voices came through heating vent. She has life insurance policy on me. $187,000. Waiting period ends January 12th. After that, she can collect if I die." The pen pressed harder. She said house fire is believable. Deaf girl can't hear smoke alarm. Very tragic. She's going to stage a fire to make it look like accident, just like she did to Amelia. Wrench typed, "Who's Amelia?" Maya's hands were shaking so hard she could barely hold the pen. "Amelia Parker, 10 years old, blind, was in foster care with Diane before me. Died August 29th, 2022. Fell downstairs. Diane got $163,000 from insurance. I found the papers in her locked filing cabinet when she forgot to close it. Amelia didn't fall. Diane pushed her." She was crying now. Silent tears because deaf people cry without sound. "There are 5 other kids still in that house, all insured. Lucas for $213,000, Zara for $198,000, Isaiah for $176,000, Emma for $241,000, Noah for $192,000. That's $107,000. Total if we all die. She's going to eliminate us one by one and collect the money. I have evidence hidden in my room. Photos of the insurance papers, my journal with dates and incidents. But if I go back, she'll find it, and I'll disappear just like Amelia." She wrote one more line, underlined it twice. "You saved your wife from a fire. Diane is planning to use fire to end my life. Please, I saved Diana. Can you save me back? Wrench read every word twice. His hands balled into fists. The leather of his gloves creaked. Diana was signing frantically. Help! Now! Protect! Family! Wrench looked at this 16-year-old girl drowning in his leather vest, wearing burns from 2 different sources, asking for the one thing she'd been denied for 19 months. Someone to believe her. He pulled out his phone, dialed a number he'd called 1,000 times. The voice on the other end was gravel and authority. Wrench, what's up? Stone, church meeting. Emergency. We got one. In Hell's Angels terms, those 5 words meant everything. Drop what you're doing. Get to the clubhouse. We have a victim who needs club protection. Full mobilization. Marcus Stone Rivera, president of the Oregon chapter for 11 years, former Marine Corps JAG officer, didn't ask questions. He just said, 1 hour, I'll make the calls. Wrench hung up, looked at Maya, typed slowly on his phone so she could read each word as it appeared. Listen carefully. I am Thomas Morrison, road captain, Hell's Angels Oregon chapter. That vest you're wearing. That means you're under club protection now. In our world, that's sacred. You saved my wife. That's a blood debt. Your family. You're not going back to that house. Not today, not ever. My brothers and I will get your evidence. We'll get those other kids out. We'll put Diane Mercer in prison where she belongs. In 1 hour, there will be 230 Hell's Angels who know your story. You won't be alone anymore. That's my word, and my word is iron. He extended his hand. Not to shake. Palm up, offering. Maya stared at his hand. At Diana signing, family, safe, promise. At the leather vest on her shoulders that smelled like motorcycle exhaust and something she'd almost forgotten existed. Hope. She placed her bandaged hand in his, and for the first time in 19 months, Maya Castellanos believed she might live to see 17. The Hell's Angels. Oregon. Chapter Clubhouse sat in an industrial area on the east side of Salem, a converted warehouse with 60 parking spaces and a meeting hall that could hold 200. By 4:23 p.m. that Saturday, every space was full, and bikes lined the street for 2 blocks. Word had spread fast. Stone had made 3 calls. Those 3 became 30. 30 became 90. By the time Wrench arrived with Maya and Diana, brothers were rolling in from 3 chapters: Oregon, Washington, Northern California. 230 men, the largest multi-chapter mobilization the Pacific Northwest had seen in 8 years. They gathered in the main hall. Leather and denim and steel. Tattoos and scars and road names earned through years of riding together. From the outside, they looked like what most people feared: dangerous men who lived outside society's rules. What they actually were was something different. A brotherhood bound by code, by loyalty, by the simple principle that some things are worth fighting for, and protecting the vulnerable is at the top of that list. Maya stood at the front of the room, swimming in Wrench's vest, Diana beside her in the wheelchair. She'd never seen this many people in one space, never felt this many eyes on her at once. Stone stood beside her, 58 years old, 6'3", presence that commanded attention without demanding it. He'd read Maya's notebook, read every page she'd allowed him to see. Evidence documented in careful handwriting over 19 months. He raised one hand. The room went silent. "Brothers," Stone said, his voice carrying to every corner. "We've got a situation. This is Maya Castellanos, 16 years old, deaf, foster kid, and as of 2 hours ago, under Wrench's protection, which means under this club's protection. He gestured to Maya. She can't hear me, but she can read lips and she can see you, and what she needs to see right now is that she's not alone anymore. Stone laid out the situation. The abuse, the insurance fraud, the murder plot, the 5 other children still in danger, the previous victim who'd died 14 months ago. The evidence hidden in Maya's room that could put Diane Mercer away for life. We've got 8 weeks until the insurance waiting period ends, Stone said. 8 weeks until Diane plans to stage Maya's death. But if Diane discovers Maya isn't coming home today, that timeline accelerates. We've got maybe 72 hours before she panics and does something desperate. He paused, looked around the room. Here's what we're going to do. This is not vigilante justice. This is not chaos. We are going to help law enforcement build a case so airtight that Diane Mercer doesn't see daylight for 2 decades. We're going to get those kids out of that house. We're going to recover every piece of evidence, and we're going to do it legally, carefully, and methodically. All in favor of full club protection for Maya Castellanos and the 5 children still in foster care? The room went quiet. Not because people were uncertain, because this was the moment when noise became unnecessary. Every hand went up, not one dissent. 230 men voting unanimously to protect 6 children they'd never met. Stone nodded once. Good. Bones, you're up. Gerald Bones Thompson stepped forward. 63 years old. Retired Portland homicide detective with 28 years on the force. He knew how to build cases that held up in court. He pointed to a whiteboard that had been rolled to the front of the room. 5 teams. Specific objectives. Nobody freelances. Nobody confronts witnesses aggressively. We're helping law enforcement, not replacing it. Team 1. Evidence recovery. Maya's room at the Mercer house contains critical evidence. Photos of insurance documents, her journal, possibly more. We need to retrieve it before Diane discovers Maya isn't coming home. Wire will handle the technical side. Jason. Wire Martinez stood, 31 years old, former Navy IT specialist, computer forensics expert. I'll need access to the apartment while Diane's out, Wire said. Maya, can you draw me a floor plan? Show me where you hid everything. Maya nodded, pulled out her notebook, started sketching. Team 2. Witness canvassing. There's a neighbor who's been hearing things. Margaret Chen, lives across the hall. We need her statement. There's also Dr. Paul Hendricks, who treated Amelia Parker the night she died. He filed a report that got ignored. And Jessica Ramos, insurance company employee who tried to blow the whistle on Robert Mercer. We need all of them on record. Team 3. Medical documentation. Samuel Dock, Washington, stepped up. 56. Former Army combat medic. Current EMT. I'll coordinate with hospitals. Get medical records on Maya documenting the abuse. Get records on all 6 kids if possible. Build medical timeline showing pattern of injuries. Focus on evidence that proves this wasn't accidental. Team 4. Financial forensics. We need to track where that $163,000 from Amelia Parker's death went. Bank records, offshore accounts, spending patterns. Anything that proves Diane and Robert are running this as a business, not isolated incident of abuse. Team 5. Child protection. The 5 kids still in that house are in immediate danger. We need to coordinate with DHS for emergency removal. But we need evidence first, or Diane's lawyer will have them back in 48 hours. This team works with legal to file proper emergency petitions. Stone looked around the room. Questions? A brother near the back raised his hand. "What about Maya? Where's she staying?" "Safe house," Stone said. "Rotating protection until this is resolved. She'll be with club families. Never alone, never unprotected. Diane Mercer wants to find her? She'll have to go through us." Another hand. "Timeline? 72 hours for evidence gathering. Then we hand everything to Salem PD and the district attorney. Let the system work, but we stay present, we stay visible. We make sure everyone knows these kids have protection." Bones stepped forward again. "One more thing. The previous victim, Amelia Parker. Her case was closed as accidental death, but the medical examiner noted irregularities. We're going to request that case be reopened. If we can prove Diane caused Amelia's death, it establishes pattern, makes the current charges stick harder." Stone nodded. "All right. Teams have your assignments. Report back here tomorrow, 6 p.m. Move out." The room exploded into organized chaos. Brothers pulling out phones, grabbing notebooks, forming teams. But there was no yelling, no aggressive posturing. Just 230 men who'd just committed to saving 6 children, doing it with the same precision they'd use planning a cross-country ride. Maya stood in the center of it all, watching leather-clad men transform into investigators, advocates, protectors. She signed to Diana, who translated for Wrench. "Why are they doing this? They don't know me." Wrench typed his response. "You saved one of our own. That makes you one of our own. We take care of family, always." Diana signed, "Family, protected, forever." Maya looked around the room, at men who looked like the villains in every news story, the dangerous ones mothers warned their daughters about, the outlaws society had written off as criminals and thugs. And she saw what everyone else missed. They were the only ones who'd believed her. The evidence recovery. Sunday, 1:47 a.m. Wire moved through the Mercer apartment like smoke. Silent, systematic, methodical. Maya's floor plan had been perfect. Every room marked. Every hiding place noted. She'd even marked which floorboards creaked and which windows had broken locks. Diane and Robert were both asleep. Bedroom door closed. Wire had picked the apartment's front door lock in 47 seconds. Skill learned in the Navy, refined over 15 years of helping brothers who'd locked themselves out. He found Maya's room, third door on the left. Barely a room, really. More like a storage closet that happened to have a mattress on the floor. No decorations, no personal items visible. Nothing that suggested a human being lived here. But Maya had told him where to look. Behind the loose baseboard under the window, a waterproofed bag containing photographs, insurance documents, spreadsheets in Diane's handwriting showing payout projections for each child. Inside the hollowed-out textbook on the shelf. Maya's real journal, not the one she carried. This one had 19 months of entries, dates, times, incidents, names of people who'd been told and done nothing. In the air vent above the mattress, a thumb drive. Wire didn't know what was on it yet, but Maya said it was important. He took everything. Photographed the room first, documented exactly how it looked. Then removed every piece of evidence, replaced the baseboards, left no trace he'd been there. 17 minutes in the apartment. He left the same way he'd entered. By 2:14 a.m., the evidence was at the clubhouse being catalogued by Bones. The witness statements, Sunday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Margaret Chen sat in her apartment, hands wrapped around a cup of tea, talking to a man covered in tattoos who listened like every word mattered. 19 months, she said. I've heard those children crying through the walls for 19 months. I called DHS twice. Both times they came, talked to Diane, left. Never even interviewed the children alone. The biker, he'd introduced himself as Professor, David Chen, no relation, wrote everything down. I should have done more, Margaret said, tears starting. I should have broken down the door or called police or something. But Diane's a nurse. She's respectable. Who would believe a 71-year-old woman over a medical professional? You're believing her now, Professor said gently. You're testifying now. That's what matters. Dr. Paul Hendricks pulled Amelia Parker's file from his archive. He'd kept a copy even though hospital policy said destroy after 7 years. I knew something was wrong that night, he told Bones. 10-year-old blind girl, fell downstairs. But the bruising pattern was all wrong. Bilateral bruising on upper arms like someone grabbed her and threw her. Skull fracture consistent with being pushed, not tumbling. I filed a report with hospital administration, flagged it for investigation. 3 weeks later, I got called into a meeting and told to drop it. Diane Mercer was a respected colleague. Family was grieving. I was causing unnecessary distress. I didn't drop it. I sent my concerns to DHS. They sent back a letter saying case was reviewed and closed. Accidental death. No evidence of wrongdoing. Bones typed on his laptop while Dr. Hendricks talked. Building timeline. Documenting failures. Will you testify? Bones asked. I've been waiting 14 months for someone to ask me that question. Jessica Ramos met them at a coffee shop 3 miles from her workplace. She'd brought printouts, emails, screenshots. Robert Mercer has processed 17 high-value life insurance claims in the past 4 years, she said. All foster children, all disabled, all died in accidents. Some weren't even his cases. He requested them transferred to his desk. I filed an internal complaint 5 months ago. My supervisor told me to mind my own business. I kept copies of everything anyway. She slid a folder across the table to Wire. Bank records showing deposits to offshore accounts matching payout dates. Emails between Robert and Diane coordinating policy amounts. Search history on Robert's work computer about accidental death investigation triggers. I could lose my job for this, Jessica said. But those are kids. Someone has to care more about kids than careers. Wire took the folder. You just built a RICO case. Organized insurance fraud. This doesn't just put them away for abuse. This is federal. The medical evidence. Sunday, 3 p.m. Doc Washington sat in the examination room at Salem Hospital with 5 children. Lucas, Zara, Isaiah, Emma, Noah. Emergency protective custody had been granted 4 hours ago based on preliminary evidence. He documented everything with permission from their temporary DHS caseworker. Lucas, 11, cerebral palsy, malnutrition. Bed sores from being left immobile too long. Bruising on wrists from restraints. Zara, 8, type 1. Diabetes. Insulin withheld as punishment, evidenced by dangerously high blood glucose readings. Ketoacidosis 3 times in past 6 months, each time blamed on non-compliance. Isaiah, 14. Asthma. Preventative inhaler confiscated, used as reward system. Multiple ER visits for attacks that could have been prevented. Emma, 6. Heart condition. Missed cardiology appointments. Medication not administered on schedule. Weight loss suggesting food deprivation. Noah, 9. Epilepsy. Seizure medication. forgotten multiple times. One seizure resulted in broken arm that healed incorrectly, never treated. Every injury documented, every missed medication cataloged, every sign of systematic neglect recorded. "How did you survive this?" Doc asked Lucas quietly. Lucas, who could speak but chose his words carefully, said, "Maya. She shared her food when she got any. Kept us calm when we were scared. Told us someday someone would believe us." "She was right," Doc said. The confrontation. Monday, 6:47 a.m. Diane Mercer opened her apartment door at 6:47 a.m. to find Salem Police Department standing in her hallway. Behind them, visible through the stairwell window, was a sea of motorcycles. 230 of them, parked in perfect formation on the street below. Detective Sarah Vance held up a warrant. "Diane Patricia Mercer, you're under arrest for insurance fraud, abuse of a minor, attempted capital offense, and in connection with the death of Amelia Rose Parker." Diane's face went pale. "There's been a mistake. I'm a nurse. I care for those children. Where's Maya? She's confused. She has behavioral issues. She makes things up." "Maya is safe," Detective Vance said coldly. "She's under protection, along with the 5 other children you won't be seeing again. I want my lawyer." "You'll get one. Turn around. Hands behind your back." As the handcuffs clicked into place, Diane looked out the window, saw the motorcycles, saw 230 men standing silent witness to her arrest. Saw Maya standing at the front of the formation, wearing a Hell's Angels vest that dwarfed her tiny frame, flanked by wrench and stone. Their eyes met through the window. Maya signed 3 words in ASL. Slow, deliberate, not invisible anymore. The trial. 4 months later. The trial lasted 11 days. The evidence was overwhelming. Financial records showed $1,207,000 in active policies on 6 children. Medical testimony documented systematic abuse and neglect. Insurance company records proved Robert Mercer had manipulated the system for years. Amelia Parker's case was reopened. Autopsy findings reviewed. Cause of death changed from accident to homicide. Jessica Ramos testified about the internal cover-up. Dr. Hendricks testified about red flags ignored. Margaret Chen testified about 19 months of hearing children cry. The 5 children testified with age-appropriate support and trauma counseling. Maya testified last. She sat in the witness box wearing professional clothes donated by a club member's wife. An ASL interpreter stood beside her. The prosecutor asked her to tell the jury what happened. Maya signed, and the interpreter spoke. "I was supposed to die on January 12th. That was the plan. House fire. Make it look like I couldn't hear the smoke alarm. Tragic accident. Diane would cry at my funeral and collect $187,000 and move on to the next child. But I didn't die, because on November 17th, I ran into a burning house and saved a stranger, and that stranger's husband wore a leather vest with a skull on the back, and he believed me when nobody else would. I spent 19 months screaming silently for help, writing notes nobody read, showing bruises nobody investigated, begging systems to work, and they all failed. But 230 bikers didn't fail. They showed up. They gathered evidence. They protected me and 5 other children. They proved that the scariest-looking people in a room can have the gentlest hearts. The jury deliberated for 4 hours and 17 minutes. Guilty on all counts. Diane Mercer. 23 years no parole for 19 years. Robert Mercer, 18 years, no parole for 15 years. The judge added, the systematic exploitation and endangerment of vulnerable children for financial gain represents a betrayal of the most fundamental duty of care. The only reason more children didn't die is because brave people refused to look away. When the verdict was read, Maya signed to the interpreter. Tell them thank you for finally listening. The aftermath. 1 year later, Maya stood in front of her assigned classroom at Salem Community College. Student teacher badge clipped to her shirt. She was 17 now, healthy, safe, learning to teach elementary education with focus on deaf and hard-of-hearing students. She lived with a club family. Professor and his wife had become her legal guardians when she aged into kinship care. She had her own room. 3 meals a day. Safety. Family. The 5 other children were thriving. Lucas in physical therapy, walking better than he had in years. Zara's diabetes controlled. Isaiah breathing easy. Emma's heart monitored properly. Noah seizure-free for 8 months. They visited the clubhouse every Saturday. The Hells Angels Oregon chapter had become their extended family. Birthday parties, holiday dinners, homework help. Regular kids doing regular things, surrounded by leather-clad protectors who'd proved that family isn't always blood. Maya kept her notebook, but the pages now held different stories. Class notes, lesson plans, journal entries about hope instead of survival. She'd started a program called Silent Signals, teaching children in foster care to document abuse and reach out safely. Teaching adults to recognize signs. Teaching systems to listen. The gray hoodie she'd worn for 19 months, donated to a shelter. She wanted someone else to know that the clothes you wear today aren't the clothes you'll wear forever. The new hoodie was bright red, impossible to miss. She wanted to be seen now. And every November 17th, Maya visited the Morrison house, rebuilt after the fire. She'd have dinner with Wrench and Diana. They'd sign together, laugh together, remember the day everything changed. You saved my life, Diana would sign every year. You saved mine back, Maya always signed in return. Here's what Maya wants you to know. There are Mayas everywhere. In your neighborhood, your workplace, your child's school. Kids who are screaming silently for help while systems fail them. Maybe you saw something once. A bruise that didn't make sense. A child who flinched wrong. A story that felt rehearsed. And you thought about calling someone but didn't want to be wrong, didn't want to make it awkward, didn't want to get involved. Maya wrote 52 notes in library books before someone read one. 52 attempts to be heard. You could be someone's first chance, or their 52nd. But either way, you could be the one who refuses to look away. The signs are there. The question is, are you looking? If a child tells you they're scared, believe them. If a story doesn't add up, ask questions. If your gut says something's wrong, trust it. Yes, you might be wrong. You might make things awkward. But you might save a life. The Hells Angels, Oregon. Chapter didn't save Maya because they had special training or resources. They saved her because they decided she mattered, because they chose to believe a 16-year-old deaf girl over a respected nurse's reputation. Because they understood that protection isn't about looking tough. It's about showing up when someone needs you. Heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear leather. And family isn't who shares your blood. Family is who shows up. If this story moved you, subscribe to this channel. Share it with someone who needs to hear that protective people still exist. Comment below and tell me, who was your protector when you needed one? Or what do you wish someone had done when you were invisible? Because these stories matter. Not for the algorithms or the watch time, but because somewhere right now, there's another Maya, wondering if anyone will ever see her, if anyone will ever fight for her, if she matters enough to be saved. She does. You do. We all do. And sometimes all it takes is one person choosing to believe instead of dismiss, to act instead of ignore, to be the one who doesn't walk away. This is Maya Castellanos' story. This is the Hell's Angels' promise. This is proof that brotherhood isn't a word. It's an action. The ending is Maya wearing her student teacher badge, saving lives by teaching children their voices matter. The ending is 5 kids thriving because someone finally protected them. The ending is 230 men proving that the scariest-looking people in a room can have the gentlest hearts. Subscribe. Share. Speak up. Be the person who doesn't walk past. Be someone's Hell's Angels.